You can drive from Alaska to Argentina. One road, 14 countries, 19,000 miles. Except for 66 miles of jungle between Panama and Colombia. There, the road just stops. It was never unfinished. Somebody stopped it. And every week, planes paid for by the United States drop millions of flies over that jungle. The road is the Pan American Highway, the longest in the world. That main route runs about 19,000 miles, from the very top of Alaska to the bottom of Argentina, enough to wrap 3/4 of the way around the Earth. It links 14 countries, deserts, the Andes, jungle after jungle, and the pavement never ends. Then you reach a small town in Panama called Yavisa, and there the road ends. Everything past that point has a name, the Darién Gap. On a map, it looks like almost nothing. A short green smudge where the two continents join, 66 miles across, and not one road in it. But that smudge is one of the hardest places on Earth to build a road, because it is really two obstacles stacked into one. On the Colombian side, the Atrato River spreads out into a flat swamp 65 to 100 kilometers wide. There is no solid ground to build on. Dig a foundation, and it fills with water. On the Panama side, the land climbs the other way, up into steep rainforest, over the Serranía del Darién. At the top of it sits a peak called Cerro Tacarcuna, over 1,800 meters above the sea, and it is one of the wettest forests on the planet. In some valleys, up to 9 meters of rain falls in a year. So how impassable is it, really? In 1960, a Land Rover became the first vehicle ever to cross the gap. It took 136 days. 12 years later, a British Army team tried again. 2 Range Rovers, 64 men, and dynamite. Even then, the Darien stretch alone took them nearly 100 days. Those were expeditions, not transport. To get a car from Panama to Colombia, you put it on a ship and sail around. The sea crossing takes about a day. The paperwork at both ends takes about 2 weeks. And shipping one car starts above $1,000. More again for a van or a camper. A scheduled ferry should have beaten all of that. 2 companies sailed it. Crucero Express started in December 1994 and stopped sailing 22 months later. Ferry Express opened the same route in October 2014 and was gone by April. 2 attempts under 3 years of sailing between them. Power lines hit the same wall. Since 2008, Colombia and Panama have planned to join their electricity grids with one big cable, 500 kilometers long. 18 years later, nothing has been built. Panama has not finished checking what the cable would do to the forest, and the indigenous people whose land it crosses have not agreed to it. So the engineers gave up on the Darien. The cable will go around it instead, out to sea, along the seabed, further than the gap it was trying to cross. They would rather go the long way, underwater. Panama is still building road out there, a 6-kilometer extension past Yavitsa toward Pinogana with 2 river bridges. It closes none of the 100 kilometers. Everything out here is built around the gap, as if it were permanent. The terrain explains the detours. The terrain has never explained why nobody simply built the road. 140 miles west of the gap, engineers had already cut a canal straight through Panama's mountains. That canal rerouted the trade of the entire world. 66 miles of road should have been easy by comparison. And so, in the 1970s, they tried for real. The United States wanted the highway finished and put up most of the money. Work on closing the gap began. The first estimate in 1968 put the bill at $150 million, most of it American. By March 1977, the Department of Transportation put the total at nearly $300 million, almost double, and the hardest miles had not been built yet. But the bulldozers never made it through. In 1975, a lawsuit stopped the whole project cold. A federal court froze every dollar of U.S. funding. The court ruled that the government had never honestly reckoned with what the road would do. And the first substantive deficiency the court named wasn't the trees and it wasn't the swamp. It was cattle. 2.5 years later, the injunction was lifted. On the 14th of March, 1978, a federal appeals court vacated it. The freeze on the money came off, and the bulldozers still never came. Because the appeals court left one condition standing. The United States Department of Agriculture had to certify that Colombia had its cattle problem under control. Until it did, no machine could work on the Colombian side. But here's where it gets stranger. What stopped the road had almost nothing to do with the jungle. It was a disease. For most of the 20th century, South America lived with a cattle plague. North and Central America had spent decades keeping it out. Foot and mouth disease. Foot and mouth is one of the most contagious diseases in the animal world. One outbreak can tear through a country's herds and cost it billions. And for decades, one thing stood between the infected herds of the South and the disease-free herds of the North. 66 miles of roadless jungle. No sick animal could cross it. So the gap was never only a problem to be solved, it was also a wall worth keeping. And Washington knew it. The same country that helped pay for the highway barred its own agencies from finishing it. Not until Colombia brought the disease under control. Pave the gap, and you don't just connect two continents. You hand a livestock plague a paved road north. But South America won that fight. In February 2020, the World Organization for Animal Health restored Colombia's foot and mouth free status, zone by zone. Free as long as it keeps vaccinating. The original reason had expired. Still, nothing was built. By then, a second wall was already standing in the Darien, a wall made of flies. The New World screwworm is a flesh-eating parasite. A joint Panamanian and American commission created in 1994 held that line in the Darien from 2006 on. It breeds sterile flies and drops them from aircraft over the Darien. Tens of millions of them every week. And the United States pays about 90% of the bill. And it works because the parasite travels in livestock. Hold one narrow line of jungle and the whole continent behind it stays clean. Then it broke. Panama used to record about 25 screwworm cases a year. In 2023, it recorded more than 6,000, and the parasite pushed north out of the Darien. So the case against the highway had a second form. The United States was paying to hold a barrier. That barrier sat squarely across the highway's route. Once the gap became something worth protecting, every other reason fell in behind it. In 1981, the jungle became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a national park the size of a small country. It is also home to the Emberá and the Wounaan, who never asked for a highway through their forest. And it holds one of the richest, most fragile ecosystems left on the planet. In 2011, Colombia's Constitutional Court stopped a road into the Darien that ran straight through Emberá land. It put the same power line on notice. Consult them first. An American court in 1975, a Colombian court in 2011. But a wall built to stop cattle was never going to stop people. Because the same jungle that defeated the bulldozers can still be crossed on foot. And for a few years, people did exactly that. In 2023, a record 520,000 people walked north through the Darién Gap in a single year, with no road to help them. There was no road, but there was a business. Human Rights Watch documents that the Gulf Clan regulates the routes, decides who may assist migrants, and at times enforces its rules with violence. The Colombian military estimates the clan collected an average of $125 from every person who crossed. The crossing killed people too. The International Organization for Migration recorded a record 174 deaths in 2024. It says the true figure is higher. Then, almost as fast as it swelled, it emptied. After a sharp shift in U.S. policy, crossings fell by more than 40% in 2024. By late 2025, they had fallen by about 99%. The traffic reversed. By late 2025, more people were going south than north, roughly 7 to 1. and they went by sea, around the jungle, the way everything else moves here. For one strange moment, the impassable 66 miles was one of the busiest irregular migration routes on Earth. 500,000 people crossed it on foot. The road still ends where it ended before they came. Now the trail is nearly silent again. So why is the only break in the world's longest road still there? Not because we couldn't build it. The swamp made it hard, and the mountains made it harder. But the break is still there because enough people decided it was worth more open than closed. It is a wall against a livestock plague. It is a protected forest older than the highway itself. And it is the home of nations a road would cut in two. And the United States still pays about 90% of what it costs to hold that line. The Pan American Highway is the longest road we have ever built, and its most important stretch is the 66 miles we chose never to pave.